Hello, and welcome to Developmental Talent. Your ear holes are about to be crammed full of the most action-packed wrestling podcast on the entire fucking planet. And it's exclusively on FreakSugar.com. Now, here are your hosts, hailing from parts unknown, Brandon Van Hook and Lemon Juice McGee.
Lemon Juice McGee here, and welcome to the next edition of Developmental Talent. Sadly, my co-host Brandon Van Hook not able to be here tonight. He may have fallen through an announce table. He may just not have shown up. Tough to say. Use your imagination. However, with me is our resident wrestling historian, Hoagie Masters.
Glad to be on the show.
And the fighting man, Matt Pierce.
Fight. How you guys doing?
Tonight's show is going to be a little different. We're doing our first interview on the show, which we recorded previously. You're going to notice it's a little more noisy than we're known for. But that's because they were disassembling a ring about 20 foot from where we were recording. So any clangs and bangs you're hearing is just the business. So let's get right to it.
And now it's time for a Developmental Talent exclusive interview.
Welcome to the very first Developmental Talent exclusive interview. Tonight's guest is a 10-year veteran of the ring, current KZW Tag Team Champions with Team Beatdown, Trash Can Graham.
Well, let's start the show off with a bang. Do you have any awesome, funny stories you can tell us about your travels throughout your wrestling career?
I'm going to give you a funny-ass story from my very second match. 10 years ago. Has to do with pooping in the ring. It's always fun. My second match, it was a 4 corners tag match, okay, and I had diarrhea. That was before I realized you're not supposed to eat before you wrestle. I didn't listen, and I like a Chinese buffet. I'm 400-something pounds, so I had that good Chinese buffet. Go to work our match. I told everybody in the match I'm not feeling too good, so just try to tag me out, try to keep me out of the match. Well, they didn't listen to me. Very first thing they did is they tagged me in. They gave me a little snapmare. This is in Hardin, Kentucky. This is for old school wrestling. You gotta know the building. It was a real small building, but when they set the ring up, the bathroom is right next to the ring. 3 feet away from the ring, there's the bathroom. It's funny stuff. So you give me a snapmare, first thing in the match, and spinal taps, where they kicked me right in the back. So had a turtle head pop out in the match. I'm glad I wore a black singlet because it was bad. It's good because I reached up and I tagged my partner and I rolled out of the ring. I did a 3/4 roll, which I learned in training, right out the bottom rope, straight to the bathroom. By the time I got back, match is half over. It's good. I realized I was pretty stupid, so of course I'm going to come out with toilet paper hanging out of my tights. It just doesn't get any better than that. Very second match, of course, they called me shit break for a while after that. What can you do? I've never eaten before a show since. I'm gonna go tear it up here in a little bit, find a Waffle House.
I don't blame you there.
No. So have you always been a wrestling fan?
Since I can remember, man. My grandma and I, when I was young, 5 or 6. She'd watch WCW and old Georgia wrestling, and she'd sit me down and we'd watch it. And I remember my first time I loved wrestling, and it was the Rockers. It was Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, and I wanted to be them. Especially Marty Jannetty. He was my favorite wrestler of all time back then. Not now.
Back then, not now.
Not
current. Not current Jannetty.
Let me tell you about my I don't like drugs, and I'm very anti-drug, and he's very positive drug.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of his anymore. I've met him. Back then I wanted to wear tassels and I wanted to go around and be a rocker, and Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, and I grew up watching Flair and all those WCW guys. I loved WCW. Didn't really get into WWE till the end of the Attitude Era. I was such a WCW mark back in the day. But there's never been a time. I'm a baseball fan, huge Oakland A's fan, but wrestling is my entire life. And it has been since I was a kid. I mean, I've got so many memories. I cried when Owen Hart died, like, all night long. I broke apart all my Hulk Hogan figures when he joined the NWO. Coincidentally, I found out wrestling's at work the very next day at school. And that was when I found out. So, you know that wrestling shit, that shit's fake. I mean, it's fake. I saw Hulk Hogan come out and drop a leg on Randy Savage. Well, it's fake. I mean, that's when I learned. But yeah, I've always loved wrestling, man. It's a passion. Now I study it. You know, I go all the way back to Frank Gotch and George Hackenschmidt in 1908, and I can tell you the history. Farmer Burns, and oh man, I collect stuff. I love wrestling. It's life.
What made you decide or realize that you could become a wrestler? What was that process?
Well, that happened. I met a guy. I worked in a mental hospital 10 years ago. Wild times. I got a lot of practice. I can't talk about it. I'll go to jail, but I practiced my wrestling there. I met a guy. His name's Jimmy Crenshaw, and he walked on my ward one day where I was working, and he had a copy of The Rundown with him with The Rock in it. And I said, do you like wrestling, man? And he said, oh, man, it's my dream, my passion. I said, mine too. He said, let's find a wrestling school. And we did. We found old school wrestling in Hardin. A guy named Brandon Thunderbolt Walker, who is a god in wrestling. You still catch him in Illinois wrestling nowadays, and he's been all over the place. We started training. Became best friends, man. We still tag. He's a part of Team Beatdown with me and Frank the Tank. There's all three of us, and we've traveled all over the place wrestling. You can't beat the dude, you know. He's working at a prison now. It's hard to get on the road with us, but he's still around. And I'm an attention whore, so I had to be a wrestler. I mean, I tried the rock star thing. I could play guitar and sing, but there's nothing like putting on a pair of tights and telling the fans to kiss your ass and beating up little skinny guys, you know. There's just nothing like it.
What was your training like?
Gruesome.
Yeah.
Rough. My name is Trash Can Graham, all right? I got that name the first day of training in Murray, Kentucky. I threw up about 8 times in the trash can. Yeah, they started out with squats, and it's just still, to this day, I hate it. Brandon made us do about 200 squats that day. And looking back, that's not a lot when he was doing 500 or 600 a day every day, you know. And that's 200 squats, man. I couldn't walk for 6 days after that day. Push-ups, lunges, laps around the ring. Learning a back bump. I don't know if you guys, any of you three guys have ever been in a wrestling ring.
I've always been. That's one of my lifelong dreams.
Well, you should have said something, and I would have got your ass in that ring tonight. It wouldn't have been hard, but it's not. A lot of people look at these things and they're like, well, that's a trampoline, or that's, you know. No, it's not. It's steel and 2x4s, and the padding on it is like carpet that you would have in your house, and that's just for grip. So the first time they said, hey, fat guy, I want you to take a back bump. I said, what? Fall on my back? You got to be out of your damn mind. This thing's hard. But it'll take your breath out of you. I couldn't lift my neck up for about a week. Training was bad, and we did this every Saturday. Every time there was a show, we'd get there, and this is what you do in wrestling. You just call paying your dues. You set the ring up. You get there first, and you set that ring up, which is hard. You guys sit here and watch them take it down.
Yeah.
Putting it up's hard. And then you train until the show starts. Then you put on a security shirt, and you work security. Then you stay around and take down the ring. Then you go home and take a nice cold shower, because a warm one's not going to... We do those chops, man. They don't feel good in that hot water. We did that every week. It took me 9 months before I had my first match. 9 months of training. And really, if you guys want me to get started with the problems of wrestling nowadays, there's more... In the locker rooms, there's fans. Yeah. There's fans that should be sitting out in the seats. And it's easy to get a Kentucky wrestling license. It's easy to get into a promotion. All you got to do is sweet talk a promoter and work for free, and you can be a wrestler, and that's a big problem. And these guys here at Kentucky Zone Wrestling, they go through the same training that we went through. You're going to get your ass in that ring, and you're going to hustle and do what we tell you to do. We're going to make sure that you know what you're doing before you wrestle a match. Yeah. You can't get into a hurry. You can't. I wanted to wrestle, man. When I started, I was like, man, a month, and I want to be working matches. You know, I want to be the next Hulk Hogan. No, man. 9 months, a year and a half. I mean, you got to train. It's hard work. So, I was heavy. I was out of shape when I got into wrestling too. I'm still fat. I'm 400 something pounds, but I'm athletic. You guys watch me wrestle. I can do a little bit of this and that. You know.
Yeah.
But back then. It's funny, they made a documentary at the place I wrestled at. And every time they showed me on the documentary, for some reason they played clown music. I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, it was gruesome. I lost weight, tons of weight. I got into shape doing those squats, those push-ups. If you want to be a wrestler, you need to get your ass in shape, and that's what they did. And it sickens me to see these promotions where they just get in there and they beat you down with a kendo stick for a while, and then they call you a wrestler, and that's a sickness. It's all over the wrestling nowadays. Us veterans, we're trying to heal wrestling of that one day at a time, you know.
So, speaking of the training in your first match, like, what was your first match like going into that?
Terrible.
Yeah.
That was, wow. Me and another trainee named Max Meany. I'll never forget it. We had our first match against one of the guys I guess helped train us. His name was Drago and his partner Brimstone. They were called Fear Factor. And we were scared to death. I mean, these were two tough dudes, you know, or at least they think they're tough. Nowadays, I look at them, I beat their ass, you know. I'm a little bit tougher now than I used to be, but I'll never forget what I did wrong. I told Drago, I said, duck a clothesline. And he goes off the ropes, and instead of just throwing a clothesline, I lift my arm about 5 feet up in the air over his head, and he takes a bump anyway, because he didn't hear what I said, because apparently I whispered, I was like, because I didn't want the crowd to hear me. But he got up and beat the shit out of me for the rest of the match. He literally kicked my ass, which, I mean, I deserved. But scary. Your first several matches are scary. First year, God, I didn't make any money, and I got my ass whooped. Never won a match. You know, hardly, when you start wrestling, you're not supposed to get any offense. You're supposed to get in there and get your ass whooped. And I've seen guys here lately get in their first match and win titles and stuff, but no, it was rough, man. You just basically get your ass whooped. You get broke into the business. You know, you earn your respect.
What kind of travel did you have to do starting out? Like, how far did you have to go to wrestle?
Starting out, I live in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, I drove an hour to a place called Hardin. It's by Murray. I drove an hour on Saturdays. Once I started wrestling, I'd go to Bowling Green and wrestle, you know, or Nashville, places like that. So starting out, about an hour. I would never drive more than an hour or so. When I really got into it, and me and Frank the Tank and Slick Wayne started traveling, we'd go Thursday to Nashville, and we'd go back Friday to Nashville. And Saturday we'd go to Bowling Green. Sunday maybe Illinois or Indiana or something. Now I'm 4 hours away from home right now, so I'm spreading out. In a couple of weeks, I think I'm up in Indiana. It's an 8-hour drive, so I'm just trying to get out there.
What are some of your goals?
Perfect question. I was just about to write that on my phone so you would ask me that. I have one goal, and you know, a lot of guys want to work for Vince McMahon, or I don't know why TNA. They don't pay anything, but I do like Jeff Jarrett's thing he's doing.
The Global Force Wrestling.
I missed the tryout they had in Nashville to do a KZW show. I really wanted to go to that, but Japan is my dream. I want to wrestle in Japan, and 2015. I'm pretty sure I have a good chance. Me and Frank the Tank, we're gonna go to Japan, spend a lot of time over there. I love their culture. I love their wrestling.
They love big guys.
They love big guys. I'll tell you why I know this. There's a guy named Mike Samples. Anybody you ever heard of him? He builds wrestling rings. He's in Louisville. He built this ring here. He's one of the top. I think he is the top ring maker in the world. Ships them all over the world, and he's a legend in Japan. When I bought my ring from him, me and some guys went and picked him up, and it was me and a guy named Shane Smalls. He's a little guy that trained with us, and a big guy that we call Tiny. And he looked at me and Tiny, and he said, "Man, you guys would live like kings in Japan. You guys are so big, and they would just love you, and you'd eat all their food, and they'd give it to you, and you'd have any woman you want." I mean, he really built our heads up. And I mean, I've always wanted Japan before that, but ever since he built my head up, oh God, I love Japan. I watch Japanese wrestling constantly. Ricochet, I know Ricochet. I'm gonna name drop him because that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Ricochet's been spending a lot of time in Japan. I'm jealous, but he's so good. He deserves it, you know. I know a lot of guys that have been going over to Japan lately, and I want to be there so bad. That's my goal.
Nice. It seems like going to Japan will be a commitment from your family too. What's the family side of it like, being a wrestler?
It's really hard right now. I have 4 kids, and I'm single. I get them on the weekends, and that's usually when you wrestle. So usually I bring them here with me, and they're old enough now. There's other kids here. This is a family environment. When you're in the business with other wrestlers, sometimes you got to bring your kids. You know, my son, I have one son, and he loves watching me wrestle. You know, he hates it when I lose. He doesn't know it's work. He's happy when I won those tag belts recently. Sometimes you just gotta make sacrifices, though. If I go to Japan, I won't see my kids. You know, and yeah, I mean, it breaks my heart, but they're young, and I've got to live my dreams too. You know, and they're gonna live their dreams someday. And if I don't, I'll hate myself when I'm older. You gotta do it now. You know.
Yep. So, thinking back on it, besides shitting yourself, what's your current most memorable match?
My most memorable match was actually here recently. My favorite times in wrestling have been teaming with Frank the Tank. Okay, and you guys seen him tonight. There's some fun stuff you can know about me and Frank. Okay, we're the heaviest tag team that I've looked up, I've researched. I can't find a tag team ever that weighed more than us. Together, at one time, we were 890 pounds. Right now, I weigh about 435. He weighs about 450, you know, so we're up there. Yeah. And you do your research, the natural disasters. Big Show and Mark Henry, they didn't weigh as much as us, you know. We're big. We tried out for the Biggest Loser one year.
Yeah,
as a team. Yeah. They loved us, man. We had the whole damn mall in St. Louis chanting Team Beatdown before it was all said and done. You know, they loved us. We actually got a call back, but they sent Frank an email. He didn't check his email for 4 months, so we missed our chance for the Biggest Loser. But actually recently here, me and Frank had not tagged in a couple of years. He moved, and you know, we've been doing our own thing, and we ended up here at KZW, and we tagged against a guy named Joe Edmonds and Jordan Hazard, and that match was amazing. Basically, we just beat the hell out of him for 15, 20 minutes. But it was so big. So the crowd popped so much for us. We've gotten so over. We've gotten respect from the veterans. They just love us, and that was the best match me and him have ever been in. We've been in a lot of matches together. You know, we wrestled all over Nashville. Together every week. We'd wrestle 4 or 5 matches together. That was it. We got our big moves in. The crowd was into it. We lost the match, but I don't care about that stuff. By the way, it's a big joke. My kryptonite is the top rope crossbody. I lose every time. Yeah. But that's how we lost that match. But that was the best match I've ever had. You know, I've been in some memorable stuff. You know, I've been around Jerry Lawler and Gold Dust and, you know, several people. I don't know. I'm living the dream everywhere I go. I'm around Tracy Smothers, Rock and Roll Express. You just can't beat it, you know.
I was going to ask you, actually, talking about the famous names and everything, is there anyone in particular that you, as a goal, would like to face?
Well, yeah. There's. I'd love to be in the ring with Vader. I know he still does a few things. I grew up, man, the big guys. Vader, King Kong Bundy. I studied these guys. Earthquake was my favorite. He was really just about my favorite big guy. If you get a chance, he had a shoot fight with some dude in Japan one time. It was amazing to watch. But I would love to be in the ring with Vader. I know he still does stuff. I know his son wrestles, so I wouldn't mind beating him up.
Yeah.
Speaking of sons, I want to wrestle Cody Hall before he makes it big.
Oh, yeah.
I want to work him. I want to give him a big belly-to-belly suplex and get on top of him and tell him I'm the man.
Head down to Georgia.
He's in Japan now.
Oh, is he?
He's in Japan. Wow. Training at New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, my other tag team bar, Slick Wayne, he wants to wrestle the Rock and Roll Express. That's his dream. He said if he can wrestle them, he'd retire. Yeah. I mean, that's cool. I actually want to wrestle Crime Time. I don't know why. Some gimmicks just I loved Crime Time, and they're on the indies now.
Yeah.
There's always, I mean, anybody you can wrestle from the past. that means something. I'd love to wrestle Lawler one-on-one, even though it would be him just trying to body slam me or just punching me over and over again. I'd love to just say I wrestled him one-on-one, but really I just don't care. I'll wrestle anybody and anytime. I just love to wrestle. If I could do it 7 days a week, I would. I want to say this. My name is Graham. A lot of people, unless you study wrestling, the only Graham you've ever heard of is Superstar Billy Graham. But the Graham brothers in the 60s and 70s ruled wrestling. Dr. Jerry Graham, you know Dr. Jerry?
Mike Graham.
Mike Graham and his dad Eddie Graham down in Florida.
Yep.
And Crazy Luke Graham. You know, these are the guys that they really just ran roughshod through wrestling. I mean, so I'm still in contact with some of those guys. Crazy Luke Graham's grandson, I talked to him. None of these guys were really brothers. Eddie and Mike were related. They were father and son, but you know, it was all a gimmick. But they've given me permission. You know, I'm part of the Graham family. I love it. There's other Grahams, Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. and Mad Dog Graham. We're still out there, and I like to represent the Grahams everywhere I go. I like to make sure people know I'm part of that Golden Graham family. Tony Falk has a son named LT Falk. Tony was a big deal in Nashville and Memphis. You can read about him in Ric Flair's book. But I had a good feud with Tony and his son over our, families, and that's always a big deal for me. If I can throw the family name in there, I love
the Andersons or something like that.
Yeah, the Andersons, Ole and Arn, they weren't brothers, but tradition. My favorite wrestlers to watch, if I'm watching wrestling, are the second and third generation guys. It doesn't matter who you are, even the ones that suck, like Kurt Hennig's son. But there's something about him. I like Ricky Steamboat's son when he's not hurt. That's why I want to wrestle Cody Hall. I wanted to wrestle Reed Flair so bad. And I cried when I found out he died, man. I did. Because I wanted
That was
to.
shocking.
Yeah, it was a tragedy.
I just watched a movie and came out of the movie theater, and Reed Flair died, man. I was trying to work him, He was doing shows that were close, and I was sure I was going to get to wrestle him. It'll never happen, so I don't think I'll get the chance to wrestle Charlotte. So,
A couple months ago, KZW had Cage Fury, and you guys came in full of hardcore action.
Yeah.
How do you feel about hardcore wrestling? Is that something that you've done in the past?
Let me tell you the truth. I hate hardcore wrestling. And people will trip out because my name is Trash Can Graham. That match in my 10 years of wrestling is the first time I brought a trash can to the ring.
Really?
Even though I've got tights with trash cans on them and I sell little trash cans at my gimmick table, and it's the first time I ever used one. Got a good pop. Were you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good.
You saw me drop kick the trash can into the dude's head, and
Yeah.
I had a lot more planned. By the way, just throwing this out there, on the 16th next week, I'm going to bring you another trash can. Wink, wink. I don't like hardcore wrestling unless it means something. There's promotions. I'm not going to start calling them out because I got friends that work these promotions, but all they do is hardcore matches, and I hate just going out there and not wrestling a match, just hitting each other with bull crap all the time.
Yeah.
That match, there was 3 tag teams. There was me and Bad Company and Bad Attitude. We've been feuding, and we needed something to figure out who was going to be the man that day. The tag champs. And let's see, what was that? It was a hardcore open door cage. Oh man, it was a lot of.
It was a cage match where the cage did not matter.
Yeah.
The cage door was open.
Yeah.
And we could do whatever we wanted to, and we did. So, from what I understand, it was match of the night. People were into it, and it meant something. It was the end of that feud between the 3 of us, 3 teams there, and that's the only time it means something. These guys that just go out there and hit each other with light bulbs and bull crap like that, and just want to bleed, and then want to do power bombs off of roofs through tables in people's backyards. John Wayne Murdoch. I don't like it. I'm not a fan at all. I like mat wrestling. I like the big guys. I like power wrestling. I like suplexes, man. If you have to do a hardcore match, do as often as you would do a cage match. It's a gimmick. You end a feud with it. So.
Yeah. You mentioned a gimmick table before. Do you do your own merchandise, or how does that work?
I do. I'm a big fan of screen printed T-shirts. It's really something I'm into, and I've always wanted to make my own. So I bought my own screen print press, a small one, starter one. And I started making these Team Beatdown shirts. And I make them myself, I would go to Walmart and buy the black shirts, and I make my screen, which is fun. You make a design and you burn it into this image, and you put it in this little machine, put your shirt on there, and squeeze some paint. It's a lot of work, but at least I know the shirts that I sell, I made. That's my personal touch. It's cool. I really enjoy it. I think in the future, I'm going to buy a big screen print press, which they're a big circular thing that those of you that don't know, and all these wrestlers that want to sell their own merchandise, I'd help them out. I'd like to anyway. Screen printing clothes, one of my big things. Comic books, music, wrestling, screen printing.
Let's talk some comics. Right now. What are you into comic wise?
I love Marvel comics.
Yeah.
Love Marvel. I do some DC stuff occasionally, but when it comes to DC, it's more like I like the TV shows,
Yeah.
But I've been a Marvel comic fan my whole life. I slowed down for a while, and I'll tell you when I got back into it is the Avengers right after House of M, when all the mutants lost their powers, and I've read everything. Of course, I'm sorry. I know you run a comic book store, but I download comics for free. Illegally, because if I bought every one I wanted to buy, I'd be broke.
Which FreakSugar.com does not support.
Do not go to the Pirate Bay and download comic books. Buy them. But I can't help it. I have this obsession, and I have to read every Marvel comic that comes out every week. And I'm sorry, you guys keep raising those prices. These movies that are coming out. I can't say a bad thing about any of them except Ghost Rider 2 and Spider-Man 3. I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 4 times at the theater. The Winter Soldier 3 times. I'm in love with Marvel Comics, Marvel everything. My house is a nerd haven. Marvel Comics everywhere. Well, I have a lot of wrestling shit. I do. I collect vintage 50s, 60s posters and magazines and stuff, but I have comics everywhere.
So who would be your ideal superhero tag team partner?
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage.
Easy.
Power Man.
It's either him or Iron Fist. Those are my 2 favorite comic characters of all time.
Yeah, but who's either? Iron Fist. Yeah. Luke Cage. Yeah.
Yep. You can't beat them. That is the tag team right
Be seen
there.
on Netflix next year.
I know it. I can't wait. I don't care about Daredevil and all that other crap. I really am a big fan of Luke Cage and Iron Fist. So when I found out about that Netflix thing, I did what we call marked out and screamed like a little girl. And I said, I hope they don't screw it up. So we'll see. I'm a big fan.
Do you watch any current wrestling product right now from anybody?
I watch NXT.
Yeah.
I love NXT.
We do too.
Yeah, we do.
Now that they've got Steen and Finn Balor and I love watching these guys, even though they got to change their names. I'm sorry, Triple H, I wouldn't change my name. I've got a great gimmick, so F you. But NXT is the bomb. It's one of the better shows there is. And then I watch Japanese wrestling a lot. I'm really a big fan of this Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
It's the 2 shows in, and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
I get to see some of the guys I never get to see, like Blue Demon Jr. I'm a big fan. He's older now. He can't work like he used to, and there's a lot of controversy around the dude anyway if you read into him, but I love to watch the dude wrestle. Prince Puma, Ricochet. He's the future of the business right there. I wish Chuck Taylor could have something to do with Lucha Underground, because Chuck, he came up with us too over there in old school wrestling. Chuck Taylor is the future of wrestling. He's just waiting for his big break. That's really all I'll watch. I've got the WWE Network, and I don't know why. I guess just for NXT, and I was watching Legends House.
Right?
Love
The
Legends
surprise hit.
Legends House is crazy.
I hope they do a part 2.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the whole deal with ads on the network is going to let them do some of those shows they couldn't, like Legends House 2, and bring back Tough Enough and some of that stuff that they.
I think, they're starting to do the commercial breaks starting anyway to prepare people for it.
Which I'm fine for if it means better programming.
More stuff. I feel like we're not got quite what they've promised so far, But then they pull out stuff like that rivalry show. It's great.
Or the ECW they're going to have.
Yeah, Monday night, ECW Exposed, which Taz apparently hates. I don't know.
The Monday Night Wars is fun too. I didn't know what it was going to be about because I've seen the DVD, but it's really cool. They take different sections of the war and do a whole episode about it. So.
Yep.
So where can some people, if they want to learn more about you as a wrestler, like say your Facebook page, how can they get a hold of you?
You look me up on Facebook. There surely is not another Trash Can Graham. Look up Michael Trash Can Graham and spell can with a K. I swear to God, people that spell it with a C drive me nuts. K, people can't. You just can't chant TCG. It doesn't sound right coming out of the tongue. It's TKG. So look me up, Michael Trash Can Graham. Or you can look up our tag team page, Team Beatdown. Or you can go to Kentucky's Own Wrestling's Facebook page. Any one of those three, and you'll find us. And I post a lot of stupid crap, and I post a lot of wrestling stuff, and anything and everything. I love Facebook fans and friends, and I have a good time. I'm big on there. I spend way too much time on there. I'm a big nerd. So.
KZW currently has some polls up for Wrestler of the Year and Tag Team of the Year and Female Wrestler of the Year. And Trash Can is up on that and a Team Beatdown. So
the Team Beatdown's kind of one-sided on this whole vote. I've noticed we have about 30-something votes to 3 is the next. So I think we have a few more fans than everybody else when it comes to the tag team stuff. Yes, please go vote for us. I don't even think there is a award, but it's nice bragging rights to say you're better than the fans like you.
You'll feel it in your heart.
I will. I will definitely feel it in my heart. I want to throw a shout out to Justin Bieber. He makes great music. I want y'all to know that. He's a dickhead, but he's got a great voice. Everybody listen to the Beeb.
So no one knows if you're joking right now. Or
I am not joking.
We're leaving it in.
I can go get all my CDs out of the car and show you. He's got a great voice, even though he's a piece of crap.
Oh man. Well, you've been a great guest, and you're our first guest.
Yep.
So you got that going for you.
Appreciate it.
For good or bad.
I mean, we appreciate talking to you.
I'm sorry this is your last show.
I know, right? We're going to shut it down.
Yep.
All right, guys. And that is it for our first exclusive interview with Trash Can Graham.
The $9.99 Match of the Week.
Welcome back to the $9.99 Match of the Week, where we find a hidden gem on the WWE Network and bring it to you. This week's picks comes from Hoagie Masters.
This week we're going to discuss a match that took place at the ECW's Guilty as Charged 2000 pay-per-view. It was the main event of the night between Mike Awesome and Spike Dudley for the ECW title. The background of the match was Mike Awesome had literally knocked Spike's girlfriend's teeth down her throat. And that built up to the Spike wanting revenge and to pretty much kick Mike Awesome's ass.
Gotcha. And for those who might not be aware, Mike Awesome, massive.
Yes.
Spike Dudley, not.
No.
Yeah.
A full David and Goliath battle, if there ever was one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which really anybody Spike fought was kind of a David and Goliath battle.
Yes, it was. The match itself, I mean, you figured it was going to be completely one-sided, which for the most part it was. Spike, I believe, went through 5 or 6 tables.
Probably from inside the ring to the outside of the ring, I'd imagine.
There was a few, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, there was times though Spike did get some offense. There was one time he did the acid drop and nearly won, but Awesome managed to kick out. And the finish of the match was a Awesome bomb, which is pretty much a power bomb, off the top rope through a table.
Yeah, the ECW, especially on their pay-per-views, never failed to disappoint in the eye candy department.
And Mike Awesome was brutal. He fought Tanaka a lot too. And those matches, they're like jumping off of the top rope and smacking people full on in the head of the chair. Awesome, just throwing people outside the ring because he's Mike Awesome. And Mike Awesome isn't just ECW big, where ECW had a bunch of little guys. Mike Awesome's a big dude. I mean, he's even when he went to WCW, he was big. So, did he have that awesome theme music?
Yes, that was one of my favorite theme musics, actually.
He actually had theme music wrote for him.
Was it mullet or post-mullet? Mike Awesome.
It was a mullet.
Mullet, Mike Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think he had the mullet when he was that 70s guy, and then he cut it off when he became that 80s dude or whatever he was.
Which there was one spot that really impressed me. Mike Awesome, like I said, was pretty kind of in a way you could compare it to ECW's version of Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, Mike Awesome, I can't remember if he got on the top turnbuckle or jumped off the ropes and went over the barricade where Spike was and hit him.
Yeah. He was called Gladiator in Japan. He's really ultra violent in Japan.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of face paint, and they called him the Gladiator. Mike Awesome's crazy. Spike was too, though. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah.
Spike managed to hold his own against guys that you never thought in a million years.
Yes.
And it wasn't a Mikey Whipwreck situation where he's just getting his ass beat. Spike won many a match with offense.
Yeah.
I actually watched another ECW match with Spike in it the other day. I can't remember exactly which pay-per-view it was, but it was a tag match. It was the other Deadlies, Bubba Ray, Devon, and Big Dick. I think it was this Devon and Bubba Ray in the match. Big Dick was out there, though, and it was Spike against New Jack. And Spike took out all three of the Deadlies and nearly pinned them all three.
If you only expose your little Spike Dudley is the little brief time he was in WWE, you doing yourself a disservice. He wasn't little Spike Dudley in WWE because the LSD initials. He was just Spike Dudley, but guy put on some very entertaining matches.
Yeah. School teacher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, school teacher,
Surprising.
moonlighting as a wrestler, and got to live his dream.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of his dream was him getting drilled on the concrete.
Well, my favorite thing he done, they threw him. I don't remember exactly who it was he was fighting, but they threw him into the crowd, and the crowd body surfed him around.
I believe it was Bam Bam Bigelow, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure on that, though.
Yeah. Mike Awesome and Little Spot Dudley, man.
There you go.
It was an awesome match.
Your 999 match of the week.
That's right.
Welcome to The Next Big Thing.
That's right. It's The Next Big Thing, where we cover NXT in its entirety most of the time. This week, we're covering the episode from November 6th, this last Thursday. Things kicked off with Sami Zayn versus Tyler Breeze.
Yeah, this was the latest stop in Sami Zayn's road to redemption, is what they're calling it. Apparently, he never beat Tyler Breeze for the number one contendership. That's what it was really sort of for. Back and forth match. Both hit their finishers. The upshot is Sami Zayn's fighting Adrian Neville next week. But Zayn's going back and beat every other big name in NXT right now. So he's pretty much the guy besides Adrian Neville.
Yeah. To be fair, the people that he's beating now are people who have beaten him in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's trying to, I guess, get back those wins.
I truly hope that they give Sami Zayn the NXT title. And if they don't for too long, they need to honestly, truthfully bring him up to the main roster.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been in NXT for too long as it is, I feel like. And having the title at this point, other than just to say that he had it before he left, I would rather him not get it and be in NXT for another year and a half. Like I would prefer him to get it and drop it, or don't get it, lose a match in some type of title versus career, and then he goes on to WWE like Bo Dallas did.
Yeah. Having the title, though, does seem to be the last step before you graduate to the main roster. Like Bo Dallas, Seth Rollins, Big E, all these guys, they held that title on there. Zayn obviously deserves it. Sami Zayn does. And, it'll be one of those really feel-good moments that people love once he gets it.
Yeah. And as Matt said, the match ended with trading off finishers. Zayn hit Breeze with the exploder suplex into the turnbuckle. Followed that up by the haluva kick to get the win, and then proceeded to do an interview with Renee Young backstage, declaring that he would like to face Adrian Neville the next week on NXT. Later in the broadcast, Renee took that request to William Regal And he said, okay. So next week we're getting Neville and Zayn for the title. I feel like this isn't going to be some type of clean finish win. Like it's going to be a Tyson Kidd interference or something. I just don't see it, you know?
It seems like anymore, if there's going to be a title change at NXT, they try to do it at like Takeover, Rival, whatever they want to call those now. The big events they've been doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Neville might go ahead and just beat down maybe Zayn, or he'll cheat in some way to beat him. Like they sort of kind of teased that he might do.
Yeah, that's how they did the riff this last time. That
Yeah.
they've smoothed over now, supposedly. Yeah, from the match before.
Yeah. Neville kind of, he didn't really cheat. He just
He looked up for himself.
looked up for himself. Yeah, which is, I feel like he might just do that again.
Yeah. Post that was the Tyson Kidd match.
Tyson Kidd and Dash Wilder. Tyson Kidd's kind of an interesting place. He, in storylines, cannot compete for the NXT title. Yeah, he's still in NXT, so it's interesting to see why he's still down there. Like, storyline-wise, anyway.
Yeah, there's really no reason for him to be there besides as an evil foil for the good guys. He's still doing the deal where his hood up, most of the time his headphones on.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's getting time on Raw, so it is an odd situation for him.
Yeah, he always seemed like one of those guys that was 1 or 2 steps away from having all of it anyway. Maybe NXT, his time there, will help him develop that. I don't know.
So, non-storyline wise, one reason he possibly could be there is where he's kind of a veteran wrestler now.
Mm-hmm.
He also trained in the Heart Dungeon, helping the newer wrestlers come up and
That's true.
run their craft.
That's true, and what better way to train on TV than with someone who's been on TV on a fairly regular basis for a number of years.
And was involved in major storylines. When Bret Hart came back, the Hart Dynasty is what they called it.
Oh,
It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Kid won the match.
Sharpshooter.
Yeah, sharpshooter. Dash Wilder, another up-and-comer who we may see more of. It's tough to say with some of these NXT guys where they're gonna hit and miss.
Well, the locals are not too. There might be like a local, like local promotion type guy.
Yeah.
He has a good look though. Very solid look. Looks like a wrestler, like what you'd expect. Kind of remind me a little bit of Curtis Axel, just appearance-wise.
Yeah.
Not really. He didn't really wrestle the same way, but just the way he looked, the general package and appearance.
Post that, we had Charlotte, who is now being known as Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, they're starting to build her Charlotte Flair.
Yeah. Teaming with Bayley against Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch, who, as we know, Sasha and Becky have recently teamed up as this evil duo. It's tough to explain, really. I mean, there's they didn't. I don't know. There's no real story for it.
Yeah. Well, it's Sasha told Becky she needs to start looking out for herself, and she was best friends forever with Bayley, who Sasha was going back and forth with. And then I guess Becky decided she didn't Bayley that didn't wait anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, because looking out for yourself is teaming up with someone else, I guess.
And copying their mannerisms. So Becky now does the brush it off the shoulder thing.
Yeah.
I honestly could see possibly this tag match turning into a fatal 4-way for the NXT women's title at the next takeover event.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that, and I could see Sasha or Bayley taking it. Both storyline wise, Bayley's the one that should get it probably.
Yeah.
But Sasha also right there in the hunt, for it. And if she wins it, then that's something else for Bayley to strive for. Because honestly, once it's one of those deals, sort of in a Daniel Bryan way, where the fans want her to have it so bad that once she has it, well,
What do you do with it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of maybe better for her to chase it. Plus, even more so than Sami Zayn, I think they should bring Charlotte to the main roster.
Oh, yes.
Charlotte is.
I think she's their number one
She's
most
definitely
needed.
ready.
I think Sasha's pretty close too. I
Yeah.
mean, she has the look. She's pretty polished in the ring. All she really needs is. She doesn't have decisive victories over Charlotte level opponents.
Yeah.
She needs to beat Charlotte, I think, and then that will show. That will show.
My only thought is that they have a number of characters right now in the Divas division that are a lot like Sasha Banks already.
That's
a lot
true.
of this
That's true.
materialistic, Charlotte, I feel like, would come and just run roughshod over everybody.
Oh, yes.
Like, there's no... Like, Natalya might be her only true opponent.
Yeah, Charlotte's gimmick is basically she's Ric Flair's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she woos.
She towers over every female she faces.
Yeah.
Far more muscular. Like, she looks legitimately like a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, she's definitely the big fish in the small pond in that situation, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was next after that?
After that was it was Hideo coming out to unveil his new partner.
Oh, yeah. Hideo Itami, for those of you who haven't been watching or listening to this podcast, you fucking bastards. Itami's had some problems with the Ascension from the point that he debuted. His kind of mentor and friend, Funaki, they put in the hospital.
Beat him down once, too.
They've just beat the... Other than the one time, they have beaten the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Well, he announced last week that he was coming out with a friend to help him face the Ascension. This wasn't for a sanctioned match. This was just him going to announce his pal.
Yeah.
Hideo comes out. Ascension hits.
It's looking dark for Hideo, and all of a sudden,
there's Finn Balor. Or Baylor. It's not... I'm not decided on what they were calling him. I feel like the announcers were going back and forth.
Yeah.
Baylor is easier for me to say.
Yeah.
But I think I've called him Finn Balor for so long that I'm going to keep accidentally calling him that. So
it's Prince Devitt,
yes.
basically. It's his WWE name, but it's they destroyed the Ascension.
Yeah.
It
was completely one-sided. There were no offense from the Ascension at all.
Balor was doing top rope drop kicks, top rope stomps.
Mm-hmm. A stomp to the outside.
Yeah.
Which it looks like that's going to be possibly his finisher.
Possibly. I'm not real sure. I'm anxious to see what they're going to do with his character. Mm-hmm. Where the Prince Devitt character was known for his attire, like where he would dress up as Carnage, Venom, Joker, Bane, all different types of comic book characters. I'm anxious to see if they're going to let him do something similar to that in WWE.
Yeah. And we've seen the image on Twitter, supposedly from an NXT live show.
Yeah. The Black Dove paint.
Where he had the paint and it actually wrapped around to his back. If this is a thing that they'll have recorded for television, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
I hope so. He did the Pele kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, which really, other than AJ Styles, not a lot I do.
No.
So that's something new to
Pele
see.
does it, but he doesn't wrestle.
Yeah, that's more of a soccer thing, and I'm pretty sure I don't think he still plays soccer, right?
No, I don't think there's any way.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, they're going to let him use some of his arsenal that we're familiar with. Plus, I'm sure he's had to adjust somewhat at the Performance Center to just a WWE style,
Right.
And to do finisher moves he's allowed to do.
Yeah.
That no one worries about someone's neck being broken, and also ones that aren't copying anyone else on the current roster, so you're not infringing on anybody else's stuff.
Yeah, it's well, the one thing I knew Devitt for, aside from the paint, was the high intensity offense and the drop kicks. It seemed like he done a lot of drop kicks, and he drop kicked the hell out of the Ascension.
Yeah.
So you pretty much get what you know with Finn Balor.
And it's one of those deals where they've got a Tommy and him together. And so it's like, guys who follow indie wrestling love it.
Yeah.
And it's like they did it for that. That's the whole purpose they did it. It's like one of those things where we should all be happy. Like, people should not be bitching about this at all.
Right.
Like, this is one of the few things that, other than name changes, that it seems like they're letting them just keep to themselves.
And there's not a lot you can say about these two name changes either. Both of these guys chose their name changes.
Yeah.
Finn Balor actually done a tweet, I believe, explaining his Finn McCool and a Baylor, which is a mythological Irish creature. So,
Which we've seen 2 of the 3 big names that were signed a while back. There's one left, Kevin Steen.
Yeah. And the rumor is that his name will be Kevin Owens.
Yes.
Because WWE supposedly copyrighted that.
Yeah.
And Owen, from Owen Hart, is what Steen named his son, if I'm correct.
Yes. Who actually won a wrestling match. He was, I forget who the opponent was, but the guy came out and was talking trash about Steen's family and Steen and everything. So Steen proceeded to either 3 or 5 package pile drivers, rendering the man pretty much unconscious. Then went out into the crowd and got his infant son, laid him on the guy, and had the ref count to 3.
Package pile driver, something you will not see in WWE. Also, infants winning matches. You probably will not see.
Well, the infants winning matches, I feel like there's a 50-50. The package pile driver, no.
Yeah,
no way on
I
earth.
would love to see it, but it probably won't happen.
No package pile driver
Also
on aprons, none of that.
Yeah.
The F sync you also will not see because it's the F5.
Yeah.
Who, as we know, someone else already uses.
Yeah.
Quite effectively. NXT's been, I mean, another week of a good show.
Yeah.
Yes.
No real. My only thing is that after watching NXT, I have to go back and remember, specifically for these segments, people, what we watched. Not because it's bad, just
So
there's
good.
not a lot of storyline and you only have an hour.
Yeah.
And they cram a lot of matches in there right away, but without some added drama week to week, it's a little tough to pull it apart.
It's easier with Raw. Raw has a lot of filler. Even during the really good Raws, there's still going to be matches that don't have anything to do with anything. So you're going to have, like, your opening, your closing, and you'll have a main event at each hour. That's all you got to really remember, you know. And NXT, another thing I want to bring up is the arena. It's gorgeous. The way it's dressed, everything about it.
Yeah. I mean, it works for that. Like, I guess it works in the same way that the Impact Zone worked, is in it gets to stay stationary at its full sell. But some of the stuff they're using, I mean, I don't know if it's stuff they're experimenting for the bigger arenas, but it's stuff they should totally incorporate.
Yeah.
The screen on the ceiling.
Screen on ceiling, yeah.
I don't know why they need a screen on the ceiling. It's kind of like having a mirror in your bedroom. I guess it looks cool. But it does look cool. Also, they have like an LCD strip that runs around the ring apron. I don't know how new that is, but I could see all kinds of things incorporating that.
Yeah, Cole putting $9.99 on there or tweets or whatever.
Yeah. Anytime. It would be simple as when changing the show, like when you're taping Superstars and going to Raw, like just change the LCD screen. I guess there is the question of how durable that is. Because there's a lot of out-of-ring action, and, you know, I don't know how that all works. But well, you can see it really well in this week's episode in the Sasha Banks entrance. They've got kind of a purple lightning running through it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and then that screen on the ceiling had Sasha Banks sort of, wasn't really static. It was sort of like her kind of dancing type pose.
Yeah, it may have been her Tron video.
It may have been, yeah. But
Sure about that.
yeah, it looks like if you could imagine a WWE owned arena, that's what they would do with it. I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, though, in my view, you look at Raw and you look at NXT. NXT looks like a total separate company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not even WWE.
Yeah, which I think is, to my understanding, what Triple H wouldn't mind having happen with it. He compared it to, he's like, why it would be cool to be WWE's new ECW, he would prefer it to be their WCW.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, I mean...
It would mean all this talk about guys going up it would be null and void.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be guys going up, it would be guys getting traded.
Yeah.
Which could be interesting. Maybe Survivor Series one year we have Team NXT versus Team WWE. You know, I mean,
They did with Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah. I mean, the point it is right now, if they were showing a pay-per-view that was NXT and one that was WWE, and they're like, okay, well, this Sunday you have to watch one live and watch one recorded. I would watch the NXT one live. I just would. Like if
they would have to have a really good. Well, I say that, but then they're like, oh, but the WWE pay-per-view is going to be the return of Hulk Hogan versus Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell or something crazy.
Sting special referee.
Which is the bonus. That's the thing with the WWE. I mean, regardless, right now, those guys are still just so huge.
Yeah.
You know, while the quality of the NXT would be great,
Yeah.
there's just a certain amount of wanting to see those guys.
But they kind of ran out of those guys, too. I mean, a lot of the guys that I really want to see, it's basically down to Sting. You know, once he shows up and he does his match, I mean, Hogan's not going to wrestle much again if he wrestles at all.
No, rumor is one more.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
If WWE even allows it.
Yeah, I feel like his passing medical physical days are over.
I feel like he could do a tag where he just comes in, does some, like, you know, the
Hot
Hogan
tag,
punch.
yeah.
Hot tag, get some punches in.
Yeah, let Cena come clean it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I could possibly see talking about that. Maybe doing Cena and Hogan versus Rusev and someone else.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar German suplexes everybody.
Oh Jesus, yeah. He suplexes Rusev. He suplexes Lana. Then
Cole.
The screen goes black.
Yeah.
But yeah, NXT. It's a thing. I'm looking forward to playing the shit out of it in WWE 2K15 if it ever comes out for the PS4. Oh, I'm waiting forever.
It'll be out. Give it a week or so.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I just saw where you can, just like in the 2K15 basketball games for the next gen systems, you can put your face in the game. So I can be in NXT.
So what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is there's going to be a Lemon Juice McGee creator wrestler. Probably a Lemon Juice McGee t-shirt, title, ring apron, and maybe even entrance ramp.
But I'll never be able to wrestle because I'll never pass the wellness test. Well, I think that's it for the next big thing for this week. Well, listeners, that's our show for this week. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Trash Can Graham. We have a number of interviews scheduled for the upcoming months. Nothing too soon, but we're trying to get these to where we can be actually in the presence of the wrestler. We don't want to do a bunch of Skype calls because they sound like shit. But hopefully next time we'll be in a place a little quieter. But yeah, so far so good. Before we go, we were talking about this earlier. It's kind of an interesting time to be a wrestling fan. Surprisingly enough, there's like a lot of new up-and-coming companies and organizations starting up. Besides, your local indie promotions, which you should support. But like televised stuff.
Yeah, like Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling. Lucha Underground's just started. And it's not all the same cookie cutter TNA or WWE. It's Lucha Underground's Luchador Wrestling. Global Force Wrestling is going to be Japanese style, wrestling. It's going to be strong style. Ring of Honor is even starting to get into some areas of the country. You can watch Ring of Honor on your normal cable channels.
And you fucking should.
Yes, you should.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's all different kinds of promotions going on. Newer ones, Global Force, Lucha Underground. Ring of Honor, I consider the third biggest promotion in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
right now.
second. Sometimes the second.
Yeah, sometimes second, yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got a few others that, I mean, they're not big, but they're pretty well known, like Chikara, AIW, PWG, things like that. I mean, they're very good style wrestling in all of those.
Yeah. And the Lucha Underground is, they've got backing of, I'm assuming, of AAA.
Yes.
Their TV works phenomenal.
Yeah.
And while they're on the El Rey network, which, like, in our area, we cannot get it. It's one of those things you have to kind of do what you have to do to watch it. But, like Global Force Wrestling, will Jarrett have a TV outlet right away? I know that the rumor is that they're setting up shop in Las Vegas with a kind of a permanent arena, like we talked about in the next big thing about, they had the Impact Zone, which they lost, TNA, sorry. You TNA'd yourself. But the NXT has their own arena. Lucha Underground obviously has its own kind of soundstage temple set up.
Temple of Violence.
I'd like to know where that is at. Like, I wonder if
Los Angeles.
Yeah. So if these wrestling shows can keep getting television outlets, there's no reason why WWE won't, not stay complacent and be in this loop they're in. Like, maybe they'll see that there's more options to throw in like they used to do.
Yeah, like when WCW was around. that was what led to all this. You know, everyone talks about how good the Attitude Era was, and the reason it was great wasn't because they were, you know, beating up women and bleeding every 5 minutes. It's because they had to do what they had to do to keep from shutting the doors.
Yeah, and why none of these promotions, I mean, we can face it, none of these are going to be really competition for the WWE.
Right.
It may be a situation like ECW where they can be influenced by the style of what they're seeing. Because, I mean, right now, like, look at the luchador section in WWE.
Yeah.
Currently, there's none because Sin Cara's in NXT.
Yeah.
Ray's not there. You know, so, like, they see more of this as popular. You know, maybe they bring in some more mask guys.
And some luchador guys. Yeah. Well, they even done a poll recently on WWE.com. Would you like to see cruiserweights incorporated into more WWE programming? Mm-hmm. And I know that was one of the big things that they talked about doing on the network, and WWE, like a cruiserweight show on the network.
The problem is, who's going to take that belt off of Hornswoggle? Because as far as I know, he's still cruiserweight champion.
Yes, that's true.
Yep. Well, Hornswoggle is gator rolling people now, so
that's true. That's true.
Going back to Global Force Wrestling and Jarrett and all that, something I've wondered a little bit of. Jarrett's very well known in the wrestling community. I wonder if once he gets this going, will he try to get other promotions to join with him to try to make this great big promotion and maybe possibly try to compete against Vince?
I could see that. I mean, I don't know. He's got the experience with TNA,
yeah,
but that may be the bad experience.
With that's true.
Plus, there's stuff too, like Ring of Honor is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting.
Yes,
they're not gonna, you know. I mean, they might loan out some talent, like AJ Styles and some people that they don't have tight contracts with, but some of these places that are owned by these larger companies, they won't have the wiggle room. Like Lucha Underground, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if anybody's going to do it, I guess it would be Jarrett. Especially if he's able to do it as an alternative to WWE, like what TNA was, instead of now becoming like watered down WWE and a hexagon ring. Yeah. If they could truly be an alternative and present something that WWE cannot, strong style Japanese wrestling, which is what they're going to do at first anyway.
Yeah, with the first pay per view they're going to import in.
Yeah.
I think the goal overall is to do like the entire all facets of worldwide wrestling. I think so. Yeah. The global part,
right?
Of it,
I mean, you'd have catch wrestling from Japan, from Europe, and all that stuff. But I guess Jarrett would be the one that can do it. If anyone's going to do it, it would be Global Force Wrestling. Because it sounds, names are important. Ring of Honor sounds, that's a good name, but Global Force Wrestling sounds like something that even if he's not across the world, it sounds like it's a big company.
Yeah, and as stupid as it sounds, the word wrestling in it,
even
though it usually is like, it'd be like GFW Wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, but you said wrestling twice. People don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly what hurt TNA a lot. At one point in time, they were NWA TNA, and people knew what the NWA was, and once they dropped it and it became just TNA, I guess they were banking on the whole, like, people thinking it was like adult content or something and clicking on it by accident because it was pay-per-view on demand. It didn't really help them. I mean,
I feel like they should have just went to Impact Wrestling, left the TNA out of it, and just been Impact Wrestling. Because that's kind of what they call themselves a lot. It's almost confusing.
Anymore now, it's mainly what they're
and Impact Wrestling sounds great.
Yeah, it's not initials. It's a different name than what you're used to. Ring of Honor, I guess people. The problem with Ring of Honor is you have MMA that's in the ring and boxing in the ring. So unless you just know what it's about.
That's true.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it's just the distribution. And the thing is, where they're owned by a cable, they can't go to a channel that would provide them the resources with the better cameras and the stuff they need and the exposure because they are owned by a cable company.
Yep.
But at the same time, it allows them to be syndicated places, but you know, it's a double-edged sword.
Speaking of Ring of Honor, also, where you were talking about Jared's promotion going to be able to get New Japan and all that, that could honestly help them big time because I know Ring of Honor did a show earlier this year. Well, actually, 2 shows with New Japan, and those were some of the best shows I've ever watched.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Yeah, well, and even TNA, this done Bound for Glory with Japan, and that was a big deal, you know. And I don't mean to say, go back to the name thing, that I don't think Ring of Honor can compete. If you can, if people can turn to like TBS and watch Ring of Honor wrestling, it would be as big as WWE pretty quick. I feel like it'd beat TNA anyway. It'd become a solid definitive.
It'd be a solid number 2.
It'd be a solid number 2.
A problem I've noticed with Ring of Honor on their TV scheduling is you expect it to come on at a certain time, but there's usually like a football game or
a car auction.
So it's just something off the wall that normally doesn't air.
Yeah,
it'll show up on the time it comes on.
Because it comes on at that time of night where it's local broadcasting, and if the local broadcasting decides to put Ring of Honor on, which they've paid for, but if there's something local that they're going to put on, that's going to go ahead of them every time.
Well, yeah, here it comes on, I believe, midnights on the weekend, and Ring of Honor's on sometimes. Sometimes you DVR a car auction. Yeah, you know, or. Who knows
it
what?
Used to be 2 o'clock on Saturday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturdays. I actually would plan my lunch at work just to go and sit in the break room and watch Ring of Honor. And there for a while, week after week, it would be something completely different.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Hoagie Masters survives on wrestling, not food.
That's right. And his job, porn star. Wow, that outro got onto a tangent. But it was a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening this week. We appreciate it. The move to Podomatic from SoundCloud has been kind of troublesome, so we recommend that if you can, download the Podomatic app to get us weekly. A little easier. While we're on Freak Sugar, if you're on an iPad or iPhone, generally it's not going to pop up the player for you to listen to us, sadly. But share us from there. We love that shit. So that's it for this week. You're getting the show a little early because of the interviews. Next week we'll be back our usual time. We'll probably be posting between Tuesday and Wednesday, something along those lines, unless something happens. Meteor shower, broken arms. There's really no telling. So we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Developmental Talent, but the show doesn't stop here. For more insane ramblings, be sure to check us out on social media. The links are conveniently listed in the text. Also, feel free to send your hatred, praise, and suggestions to